A lot of people are afraid to make a lot of money because they're like, who am I then? Like, oh my gosh, am I going to have friends? Am I going to be a snob? Am I going to be this or that? Right. So, really getting down to the nitty gritty of, okay, if I have a lot of money, who am I? And who am I not?
Welcome to the Danette May Show, where you'll receive profound breakthroughs, courage to break old patterns, and live into your soul's purpose. Each week, I will bring you epic guests and live coaching to remind you of your power. You have the ability to achieve extraordinary things, and the time to start is now.
Thanks so much, Vishen. I just want to say thank you to you because you've been someone that I've looked to as well in this journey.
Thank you. Well, firstly, I'm honored to have said that. I know we've had so many conversations in the past. We've had so many interviews together. And so, yeah, I'd say you're one of those people that I would rate highly in my life because we learn from each other, right? Whether it's business or growing our reach, or now, congratulations for joining the author club and getting this book out. Tell us about the book, Danette. What is Embrace Abundance about?
Yeah. So Hay House had approached me and they were like, we want you to write another book. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to write another book. And they go, do you know what you want to write on? And I said, what would you want to hear from me about? And they were like, we are so fascinated how you've gone from $47 to 5 years having two eight-figure businesses, now to three eight-figure businesses. How are you doing that? And you have good health. You seem like you have really magnetic relationships. What are you doing? And people want to know, like, what are these steps that you're doing in your life and all the different gamuts of this idea of abundance, not just financial abundance, but living in your purpose, having health, having fun times, relationships. And I was like, I'm going to write a book on this and I'm going to share the small little nuggets that I do daily to really see and witness the abundance that I believe is for everyone's taking that wants to open their eyes and step further into this concept. So that's what I did. And I just wrote it all out and did it in really small nuggets. And that's what Embrace Abundance is.
So I take it you look at abundance and manifesting from the spiritual as well as practical side, right?
Absolutely.
How would you say your idea is different from, say, conventional ideas of law of attraction, like from that movie, The Secret?
I actually think I'm a big fan of The Secret. I think I heard that probably like 10 years ago, really helped shape my life. It was like a concept that came into my life. There's been things that I've added that are a little bit different to The Secret. A lot of times what I thought about at the very beginning was, oh, if I do a vision board, or if I just see it in my mind, then it's going to become in my life. And then I started to notice as I was adopting things bigger than just having good times and a really great relationship and a good body was that business required a different level of this. And I was like, okay, what is this? Obviously, I have to have strategy, I have to have work. And I always love this quote that comes from the Bible. I think it's from the Bible. Faith without works is dead. And I really believe in this concept of really flow work and inspired work, not just this 8 to 5 grinding work, but when you're in inspiration and getting out of this idea of balance. Because when I'm in inspiration, I'm working probably longer than people would say was healthy, but I'm in inspiration, I'm in this flow. And so really operating in a new level of awareness around what's in inspiration, what's feeling like you're breaking down a wall and you're not in joy, and operating in that and getting rid of these ideas that you read about in books like the 10X and all the things that probably people you've been promoting, but I just don't actually buy into.
So let's start with manifesting health, right? So tell us about the journey there, because one of your earliest books was called Bikini Body Recipes. Tell us about that journey, because you're a mom of three. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a mother of three. And I believe you won Miss Bikini Body when you were close to 40.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I'll tell this story. The whole time I was prepping for it was the Bikini Worlds, and I had never done any fitness competitions, and so I knew I had to do the biggest one that was gonna be aired on ESPN, because if I didn't, then I would find a way to get out of it. So I scheduled for the Bikini Worlds. Yes, I was approaching 40, and I had lost my son. So I have 3 children, but I lost my son. So I had gone through a really deep depression after losing my son and really was in this space of like, okay, I understand the power of healing foods, but I also know this world in the fitness world, which is these bikini stages and these fitness stages where they're not actually doing it very healthy. And can you use your mind and can you eat really healing foods without depriving yourself and still win and look amazing? That was my ultimate goal with this because it was a misconception in the industry that it was actually really unhealthy. So I set out with all the recipes that I'd already created to eat these foods that were really healing, that I felt really invigorated. I was still able to be a mom and operate in business and have my brain functioning on full tilt, and as well as harnessing manifestation. So I was reading Wayne Dyer's book called Intention, The Power of Intention. The whole time I was prepping. To me, it wasn't about just food prep, exercise, learning to walk in high heels, or learning to get the right bikini, but it was around the power of intention, the power of your mind was going to be the thing that put me over the edge to really qualify and be in the first. So I would visualize how I was standing on stage. I would visualize the judges seeing my body different than someone else's body. Because I have to tell you, when I arrived at Worlds, there were, no joke, 150 girls from age, they don't put you in an age class. It's like 19 to 50. I was like, how are the judges even gonna know the difference? Like, I can't see one non-hot body and I was like, this is nuts. Like, how are they even gonna differentiate this? And so when I was on stage, I was like, I know the power of my mind is making these judges look at me differently, because there's no way Susie to my right and Lucy to my left looks any different than I do. And that's why I really think I did so well. Plus, I was eating really great foods, and I think I just had a really deep mission and purpose behind it.
So that's really interesting, though. So you spoke about Wayne Dyer and the power of intention applied to the body, applied to health.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit deeper. For people here who are looking to bring in mind over body practices, what are some tips? What should we be looking at?
When everybody wants to get this hot body, right? We think, okay, I got to eat these foods. I got to do this exercise. There's always a gimmick. There's always something that you could do effectively. One piece that most people are forgetting is this mind piece, because we all operate in these conscious minds and these subconscious minds, right? So your conscious mind is the one that said, this is my goal. I want to look this way. I want this amount of weight, whatever. But your subconscious is programmed differently. It has a whole story that you may or may not be aware of, whether that was a story that, hey, I'm 40. I mean, most 40-year-olds look like this. How am I going to look like this? And so it has this limiting belief, right? Or I've had 3 children or 5 children, like I have this extra skin. So these limiting beliefs in the subconscious. So what you want to do is really look at, where has any of these subconscious beliefs been imprinted? My age, right? How many children I've had, if you're a female, operations, maybe injuries in your body. These could be limiting things that are going to show up in the subconscious. Maybe genetics. A lot of times, women and men in particular, we grow up age 5, 6, we hear our aunts and uncles talking in the other room about being big boned in our genes and how we have a hard time losing weight in our family. And that gets imprinted whether you recognize it or not. So looking at those past subconscious beliefs and rewiring them. And how I rewire them is I actually play an audio tape every single day. Now I'm on autopilot because I create them in my programs, where you are literally rewiring that story, going back to a neural imprint where maybe that was subconsciously imprinted, and rewiring that story. So rechanging that story. And that has been why I believe my programs have been super successful for people and myself, is because we're not just working on the physical and the conscious part of our brain, we're hitting that subconscious piece, which is allowing us to get over the self-sabotage that happens whenever you start to see results. Right? Because that happens. You start to see results, and then you've got to work on that subconscious, or you'll go back to old patterns.
This is so interesting, right? Because it begs the question, how much of aging is the mind, is what we believe? So here's an article from the New York Times. You guys who are listening to this in the podcast can search for this. What if age is nothing but a mindset? Yeah, but this is basically what the article suggests. It was a study done by Ellen Langer, the famous psychologist. The study was done in 1981. She took a group of men who were like in their 50s and 60s, and for 5 days, she recreated the 1960s, 20 years before, and they had to live in these houses with 60s wall art, with 60s television programs playing on the television. They had to interact with each other as if they were young again. And what happened is, in 5 days, they actually started showing signs of reversing age. The belief, or even pretending that they had gone back in time, literally made aspects of their biology go back in time. The full article you can find on the New York Times. It's a beautiful article on this particular study, but it begs us to ask the question, how much of aging is actually determined by the mind? And we are seeing so many interesting things, right? For example, I teach the Silva method, and a key aspect of the Silva method is imagery therapy. So I had a video I put out on YouTube on how I healed my skin with my mind. And that video got really, really, really popular in the Miss Universe and Miss World circuits. So I've had several Miss Universe from various countries write to me and say, I followed what you did in that video and I healed my skin. Because obviously, if you're taking part in a beauty pageant, you're going to need flawless skin. And when I first created that video a few years ago, I was a little bit self-conscious because it seemed too much to say that your mind can heal your skin. But today, it's actually studied by science, and there's a term for it. It's called psychodermatology. Feel free to Google psychodermatology. But it shows that so much about what we believe about our body, we can literally manifest. And so that's why I'm curious, Danette, because every time I see you, you look more and more and more beautiful. We've known each other for almost 10 years, right? But you seem to defy aging. And so I'm curious, are there beliefs, are there aspects of your body that you just have chosen to believe counter to what society says?
Yes. There's a coin, and I'm not going to say I coined it. I'm not sure where I got it, but it's like, why identity? Why identity and my identity? So what you have to really look at, how am I identifying myself? And a lot of times, like, I'm just going to speak for women. It's like, I'm a mom, I'm over 40. And then your brain starts to pick an image that you basically imprinted on yourself of what a typical mom over 40 with children looks like. So for me, I've gone back and gone, okay, actually, my identity, I'm a sexy, lean body that looks like a 20-year-old. I say this to myself. And every night before I go to sleep, I say, I am a beautiful biostate of a 28-year-old. I am
Wow.
living and operating in this powerful biostate. Every day, my skin is looking better. My body's getting leaner and tighter. I say this every single day.
Okay, so that's a really powerful affirmation. And I've heard that from multiple people. Linda Goodman spoke about in her early books like Sun Signs and Star Signs. She was a famous 1980s mystic. She spoke about something similar. She said, one of the most important things we have to do is before we go to bed, use a statement or visualize yourself getting younger. So I'm curious about your statement. Will you repeat that for us one more time?
Well, I say I am at the most vibrant, healthy biostate of a 28-year-old. I'm moving and feeling and looking like a 28-year-old.
I'm at the most vibrant bio state of a 28-year-old and looking and feeling and moving like a 28-year-old. I love that. Why do you pick the number 28?
Well, it used to be like 24, and because you have to believe it. There has to be an element of belief. There's another book in my mind around this idea and concept of belief. Belief for healing, belief for money, belief is everything. So I've gotten older since I started stating this statement, right? So I'm like, okay, 28 feels within a good belief system for me. It may go to 34 when I'm 50, who
Right.
knows? But I'm gonna just keep really moving in that what feels really in true resonance for me. And it's so fascinating. I say 28, but now I realize I have a lot of friends, close friends, hot, sexy friends that are all 28. I think that's fascinating. I probably subconsciously choose 28-year-olds to be my friend because they're a reflection of what I want to see.
Oh, that is so interesting. That's intriguing. Now, there are studies that show that we are the sum of the people closest to us, right? If you have friends who are fit, you become fit. You have friends who are obese, you're more likely to become obese. So could it also be that there's a virtuous circle happening here? Because you are in the bio state of a 28-year-old, you're also attracting 28-year-olds, which in turn help you stay in that bio state.
It must be. I just realized it now because I've had my husband go, why are your friends so hot? Like, you in the world beautiful? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why my friends are so beautiful. But now I'm wondering if I'm just trying to mimic subconsciously the mirror of what I'm wanting to see. They're beautiful humans. Like, to me, they have these beautiful hearts, but they're also aesthetically very beautiful people.
So here are some affirmations I repeat, okay, to myself before in the morning when I wake up. So I use the lofty questions approach by the mystic Christy Marie Sheldon, who's one of our Mind Valley teachers. Rather than state it as an affirmation, we state it as a question to our subconscious. So I say, why does my body heal itself as I sleep? Why am I getting younger, sexier, and healthier every week? Why do I have the muscular body of an athlete? So these are some statements that I repeat. And again, feel free to borrow them. But what I found is, as I've repeated these statements, it also influences the beliefs in my brain. Today, I woke up early because I'd set an intention to go to the gym. And it was raining and it's freaking cold outside. And I woke up and I'm like, God, I didn't sleep well. Maybe I should give myself 20 minutes more in bed. But because my identity is, why do I have the fit muscular body of an athlete? Athletes wouldn't be staying in bed. Athletes don't dread working out. So I put on my raincoat, I got in the damn taxi, I went to the gym, I got wet walking halfway to the gym, but I got my workout done, even though I just didn't feel like it in the morning. And so there's a theory here from James Clear that when you take on these beliefs, they actually shift your identity. And the best way to develop new behaviors is identity shifting. And so James Clear talks about it in Atomic Habits. So it seems that, it's not just manifesting, but there are psychological behavioral conditioning principles at play here. But ultimately, it's about taking on the new belief. Maybe you don't believe in manifesting. Maybe you don't believe that your mind can actually influence your skin to get clearer. But for sure, if you've read the book Atomic Habits, which has been in the bestseller list for almost 2 years now, you are changing your behavior at a very intrinsic level when you take on these new beliefs.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you basically brought up identity. That's like, I always ask, what's my identity? Like, what's my purpose? Like, why am I doing this? And I love how you asked a question, because there's so much power in, why am I so fit? Why am I an athlete? Why do I have a body of an athlete? And then it just moves you in those actions. I love that.
And there's one more thing I think is really worth looking at. It is breaking the preconceived notion of what it means to get older. Many men, many women have an idea in their head of what their body is supposed to look like at certain levels. So, for example, when I first moved to Estonia, I used to have an Estonian wife, and I had 2 children with my former Estonian wife. Now, I remember in my culture, in Indian culture, after a woman delivers, their body typically does not rebound. It's just an accepted part in my culture. Since I was a kid, I would see that in my aunts, I would see that in people in my family. After a woman became a mother, her body would not rebound back to its initial state. And very often the body would get progressively worse. In my family, there's a history of obesity. But in Estonian culture, I remember my Estonian wife, in 4 months, she was back to her weight before pregnancy. And it wasn't just her, it was all of her friends. Most of the women who work in our office in Estonia are mothers. All of them are in the most incredible shape, even though many of them are approaching 40. The cultural zeitgeist here is different when it comes to pregnancy. And I believe that there is something there. If we hold a belief in our mind that after I deliver, my body is going to be ripped, or after I hit 40, I'm going to have a belly, or as I raise kids, I'm going to develop a dad bod, that becomes true for us.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
So what are some of the beliefs that you've taken on, Danette, that you would suggest that we start to, what would you say are the myths that we should discard and the new beliefs on health that we should absorb as we age and as we hit these milestones?
Yeah, and I want to say that obviously I started in this realm with health because this is where my business started. But these principles work for everything. Literally, like from money to purpose, to having good times, to the friends that you have, to how amazing your sex is. Like, honestly, all of these principles work in all the dimensions. So you can decide what area do I need to fine tune. And that's what I've literally done. I've used these principles for my business, for my relationships, for my sex life, for everything, right? Because this is a big deal. So when it comes to health, because you were asking like myths. So once again, I know for some people it's a big thing to swallow, and I'm super fascinated with this concept. So I feel like I've been able to take the water hose pretty well now, but it's really understanding that whatever you believe will happen, truly. Obviously, I take on another approach to just belief. I also think there are fundamental laws involved. So for example, I'm not going to eat Crisco and, really harmful toxic foods that we actually know are man-made, right? I'm not going to go and do that and think my mind can counteract it. I think there's an element, just like with business, there's elements of work and there's elements of frequency, right? And that I actually always have this quote that your frequency is more important than your strategy. And what I mean by that is the energy and the belief that you hold and the level of frequency inside your system being turned on to joy, turned on to happiness, turned on to love is actually going to be the catalyst for your ultimate growth. And so let's talk about this frequency of love, joy within your body. How many people listening have gone on vacation, like the most coolest vacation? You loved the people, the art, the culture, and you're eating pasta, you're eating croissants, you're eating whatever you want. And you come home and you're like, I lost weight, or I didn't even gain any weight and I ate all this stuff because your frequency was turned on to love, to joy, to curiosity. And so that happens, right? Whereas if you go on a vacation where you feel a little, like I'm so tired, the people are draining, it's not, you do tend to gain weight. The same goes for in your life. So you can have strategies, which is you should eat healing foods. You really should get into movement every single day. These are fundamental principles. but the frequency you hold. So loving the body that you live in, truly showing up and looking at yourself, no matter where you're at on the scale, no matter where you're at in your genes, no matter what you see externally, choosing to really love that you've got these two legs, these two arms, this heart, this voice, this head that you get to love, and it gets to move and operate in this world. And when you start to love it, I always say it's like loving yourself lean. And it's like loving yourself so much that you're turning that dial and that frequency, and it makes it easier for the weight and the toxins and all the non-essential things to fall from your body, the non-essential people to fall from your life, for the things that you were doing in your business that kept you stuck. Whereas they fall away so that you can get into that flow and that magnetism of the abundance.
I love that. So again, this may sound spiritual, but a lot of this has now been proven by science. If you go to psychologytoday.com, there's an article that you guys can search for. It's called, Does Guilt Make You Fat? And basically what the article suggests is if you feel guilty about binge eating, you actually slow down your metabolic rate.
Absolutely. Or you're putting judgment. Like you're saying, this is such a bad, I'm eating so bad, or I hate the term a cheat day. That term already psychologically in your system means that you're a cheater. It means that you're doing something that's bad. Just say, I'm having a free day. I'm having a free day.
The very concept of a cheat day is actually bad. And diets that have cheat days typically have a higher rate of failure because they are not paying attention to the belief system. What does a cheat day tell you? It tells you that it's so painful that you got to cheat, right?
Totally.
Okay, so here's another article for you guys. So what I'm trying to do, Danette, is I'm ensuring that everything we talk about, there's scientific evidence. So we were talking about mind over skin. We were talking about feelings and how they improve our health. This is another study. You can find it if you're listening on the podcast. If you're interested in psychodermatology, mind influencing skin, firstly, there's a video where I teach you how to do this. Go to YouTube, type in Vishen, creative visualization, and then Vishen, creative visualization for healing. You'll find it there. If you want to read the scientific evidence for this, there was a study published in 2011 by Professor Jaffarani, and you can find it in psychiatrictimes.com. Search for psychodermatology. The study is called When the Mind and Skin Interact. Okay, so we've talked a lot about how our mind, our beliefs, influence our skin, aging, influence our metabolic rate. Now, Danette, let's talk about the next one. Let's get a little bit more mystical. Let's talk about love. Can our minds and our beliefs influence the people that we attract in our life? How do you manifest love, sex, dating, beautiful relationships into your life?
Yeah, I just created a program that launched not too long ago. It was a huge hit. It was called the 21-Day Attract Your Soulmate Challenge. And the idea was not that there's just one soulmate out there. So I want to clear that up. It was that you could find this person that literally lights you up so that you step fuller into the purpose and the true essence of who you are. And to me, that's the purpose. Because if you decide to match up with somebody, a lover, a partner, marriage, whatever, you either are moving in the trajectory of your true soul's call, or they're a massive distraction. You can't even really, it's pretty cut and dry. And so just really wanted to help people around this path of really getting into these powerful relationships that are going to help them step even more into their purpose and their joy. So, okay, so what I feel about this, it was a whole 3-phased program. And the first phase was really around, because there's all different phases when it comes to attracting a soulmate, when it comes to that energy and that frequency. In my mind, the first one is really understanding, what do you truly desire? Getting out of the idea of what society has taught you, what you should have or want, or all of that. Once again, it's the same thing about health. Society tells us a certain person should look a certain way at a certain age. We have to start to get to the fundamental bottom of that and go, is this even actually true? And so the same goes with relationships. What is actually something you desire? And getting into that. Then what you want to do is work on your own, once again, your frequency, which is your ultimate dial of love for self. You will only see the reflection and attract the reflection of what you actually believe for yourself. So that worthiness has to be literally at the forefront. What is the belief system you have around what you deserve to be your reflection? And what is that belief you have on yourself? So I take people through really deep healing around trauma in your past, around relationships who might have told you things like you're not smart, you're not cute, you're fat, whatever the story is, and healing that trauma. Because if you don't, you're going to continue as an opportunity to keep bumping into that invitation for you to heal that trauma, which will show up in more relationships that trigger that trauma. So that's the first thing. And then the third part is really using energy and calling in that person after you've healed the trauma.
So it starts with healing our own trauma. And the trauma could be whatever is pushing away love from our life. I am not worthy, or all men, all women are cheaters, of things like that, right? Which we pick up from our childhood. So many kids see their parents divorce, and it embeds in them these destructive ideas of what a relationship is about. The first step is healing your trauma. Then the second step is, could you clarify that?
Well, so the first step is understanding what you really want. Second step, healing the trauma. And then the third step, I take them through a really powerful visualization and really calling and seeing and using energetics to bring that person in. The reason you have to clear the trauma, though, is because you will call in that trauma. And that's what a lot of people are doing, is they're using these ideas of manifesting or visualization, meditation, but they're still calling in their trauma. So I really believe that that second phase is the hardest, it's the deepest, but it's the most fundamental when it comes to that person coming into your life that actually really catapults you to that next level.
Okay, that visualization sounds really, really, really cool. So Danette, let's go on to the third aspect of manifesting: money. You've built 3 massive businesses. And when I say massive, I mean, I know one of your businesses, I know the revenue it was doing. It was freaking huge, like maybe the top 1% of all personal growth businesses out there. How are you manifesting money? What is that secret?
That was a big one for me. That was where I really had to strip away old paradigms, belief systems. So I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. We probably went out to eat twice when I was growing up. So money also was not only not prevalent growing up, but also I was being told that people that had a lot of money were greedy, kind of snobby. Like that was the belief system that I grew up with. And so I really dig deep on removing a lot of this trauma. And I call it trauma because it wasn't even true, right? Because it was my belief system it's subconsciously lodged in my DNA that I had to clear out. So what I did, and you guys, this is why I love this work, is because people could say, oh, you had the right connections, you just know business. And it's like, yes. And I would not be where I am today with 3 8-figure businesses if I had not done this money mindset work. And I have to say that 100% because people have me speak on business all the time. And I'm like, can we talk about the metaphysical for a hot second versus my funnels? Because these funnels wouldn't be here without this deeper work that is so key.
I believe that. I'm so glad you said that, because I see you speaking at so many digital marketing conferences on how, because you've built 3 times, you've built businesses that exceeded 10 million in revenue. And I can tell you that is freaking hard. It took me, 10 years to get to that 10 million mark for Mind Valley. You've done it 3 times. And I love that you always say, can we talk about the metaphysical? That's what I want to ask you about. But I also noticed that you're a philanthropist. You have given away $5 million to humanitarian efforts around the world. Is that correct?
Yeah, here's my belief system on that, is that if we're going to talk about energy, right? And we're going to talk about if we really believe in this concept. And for me, I can believe it, like I can take on these concepts, but it's like when I really feel it in my cells and I take on this meaning. So for me, I come from this belief system that I'm going to give away 10% of everything that I make to organizations every single month. So that 10% is given out to the world. And I'm thinking of like organizations that are going to do well with it. And so it's a whole variety of different things, because I believe where much is given, much is expected. And so
I
for me,
love
that's
that.
an energetic play.
You're such a beautiful soul. That's amazing. I know very few people who have donated $5 million straight up to humanitarian efforts around the world.
Well, I think that if we all just gave it a chance, even if you're only making like $10,000 and do 10% of it and give it to others and give it to good things that are going to help other people, you will get it back, I believe, tenfold. I really do. I believe that concept will come back to you. It doesn't matter if you're making $1,000, 10,000. This is something I teach my children. I don't care what your revenue earning is, give 10% of it away. Share, give it, and serve other people.
That's really fascinating. So I would love to get your top 3 tips on manifesting wealth.
Okay, so the first one is really understanding this core belief, subconscious belief around if you were to make a lot of money, who does that mean you are? Because a lot of people are afraid to make a lot of money because they're like, who am I then? Like, oh my gosh, am I going to have friends? Am I going to be a snob? Am I going to be this or that? Right? So really getting down to the nitty gritty of, okay, if I have a lot of money, who am I? And who am I not? And really getting to this belief system so that you are worthy, you deserve to have money. So that's going to take some work. There's a lot of books out there on that, but it's well worth it. So that was my first step. The second step is once you have a belief system that, yeah, I can be a great steward of a lot of money and I deserve this. Because here's the deal. Businesses, yeah, I actually think business is a lot simpler than everything else. Personally, I feel like I could build a lot of 8-figure businesses. That might sound so conceited, but I just feel like success leaves clues. And I feel like I can just take business ideas and create it. Like that to me is just working on my belief systems and my worthiness around how many can I have? How many can I have? And because you can delegate to a lot of people with your visions. So that's that. And then the third is like really holding that vision. Because the truth is when it comes to business, you're going to get knocked down 1,000, 10,000 times. You're going to have so many moments where you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to question why you're doing it. So for me, every day I get into, this is a non-negotiable for me. And I have non-negotiables because they're non-negotiables. And I think this is what moves the needle forward. I visualize the outcome as if it's happening every single day. And this is not a new concept. Most people are talking about the power of visualization. I always know that my body, my connections are going to move to the direction of what I can see. And so I'm always holding that vision so that when that employee says this, or if I get told something, or I get shut off from Facebook or shut off from Google, I know the vision. I know it's just a moment in time and that will shift. And there will be a new moment that's going to get me to that vision. And so that's, I think, the last component that's the most important.
Oh, I love that. Could you quickly summarize the three for us?
The first one is what's my story around money? Who am I if I make a lot of money? And who am I not, right? So understanding that, clearing any block that you have. So then once you understand that, then clearing any of the money stories, clearing it out. That's the deeper work. And then third, once you've cleared out, then you start to, and you can do them all simultaneously, set the vision. Why are you doing this first? Like the why identity, once again, why do you want this vision? And really holding true to that why and then seeing it and visualizing every day. This is the thing. I don't think people visualize every day. I think they have a vision one day. They might write it down, which is beautiful. But I go out in nature. Personally, I do this in nature. I harness the energy of nature and I visualize where I'm going. And I do this every day. I visualize how I look. I visualize where I'm going. I visualize my sex. I visualize my relationships. I visualize it all on that walk.
I love that. That is such an interesting idea. Now, do you do that? So every single day you go, as you take a walk, you set intentions through visualization of these different dimensions of your day.
Yeah.
Okay, so you visualize how you want your relationship with your partner to unfold that day.
I visualize the power of my children. Like I see my kids in their ultimate power. So I do one for my kids. I see the kind of friendships I want and feel into the kind of friendships I want. I see into the businesses or the impact I'm making. I call it impact or my purpose, but it's disguised like a business. I see that. I see my health. And for me, passion is a really important thing. I like passion in life. So I see things that light me up that are a passion thing for me. I think passion is also what keeps people looking younger. So lots of good passion. So I see that kind of stuff.
When you say lots of good passion, is that like code word for sex? What do you?
Yeah, but it's also like travel, like anything that lights me up is what I'm like, where I want to be.
Right. I like that. I like these segments, how you've divided your life into segments and you set an intention for every segment, every single day.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really cool, Danette. And what I want to do next is we're going to bring up a couple of members from the audience to ask their questions. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to bring up the first guest. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I wonder what is most common or biggest obstacle when it comes to manifesting abundance, would you say among, if you would be able to give everyone just one single suggestion, what would that be?
I actually think the biggest obstacle for me is owning my frequency. So for example, every single day, I at least have one, if not many, moments where I could get frustrated or feel like I'm off track or someone might say something that triggers something, right? Like there's always something when you take on being a parent and doing business, there's something. So for me, it's constantly reshifting my energy because a lot of times what I'm noticing with my coaching clients, even within myself, is like, if you get hit with something negative, something that, they're like, this was a fail, this happened, or this employee did this, or this happened, you can like get sucked down a rabbit hole of being like pissed off, mad, feeling negative, right? And so I'm always like going, okay, I feel that energy. I'm aware of it. I don't like this feeling because I'm mad. And so I try to shift it to gratitude, shift it because I recognize that my frequency is truly more important and more potent than my strategy. So shifting that frequency, okay, I know where we're going, just a little bump in the road. Got it. I send you love, staying in my frequency.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I get it. So it's about not perpetuating what is happening.
Yeah, it's not
Somehow.
letting yourself go down the rabbit hole of your brain going, oh my gosh, now this is going to break. This is going to happen. I can't believe this employee. I'm so mad that they did this last time. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're human. We do this, right? Like when someone knocks us, we can go down the rabbit hole and we could stay there 3 minutes, an hour, some people all day long. The goal for me is to pull myself in an eagle-eyed perspective and stay focused on the end goal, because my frequency could shift it. Like if I stay in that for too long, I'm shifting the timeline of how quick I'm going to get to my ultimate goal, right? So I'm trying to bring myself back constantly, staying in high vibration as much as I can.
Amazing. Thank you, Danette. Thank you,
Thank
Lisa, for the question. Okay, so the next question is from Rita.
My question is, should we work on an aspect of our life, for example, health, and once we make some progress, go to another one? Or can we work on love, health, relationships, everything a little bit at the same time?
Like, honestly, the same principles go for all of them, right? So that would also be the limiting belief to be like, well, I can only have help right now, and then I can have my business. Like, why not? Like they can all work simultaneously, right? So just open up that portal, open up that belief within you that, yeah, but sometimes we have our finances in check or our business in check, and it's our relationships that need a little more focus. You can choose one you want to put more focus on, but check yourself. What's your intention with that? Is that just to give a little bit more of that because you're feeling really good about the others? But or is it because you're like, well, I should only do one because that feels like the very linear logical.
No, don't do one. Don't do one. Identify the areas that matter for you and desire, visualize in all of those areas. And sure, you can have an area of focus for the week or for the month. So a tip, you can use the areas Danette mentioned. I love Danette's example of taking a walk and deciding the area she wanted to focus on. When I meditate in the morning, I also have these set areas. I set an intention for my focus for the day, my relationships, my serendipity I want to encounter. Okay. Thank you, Rita.
There was a question that was asked about like, well, how do you raise your frequency? I understand it, but what do? You have to make a list ahead of time of things that bring you joy, things that pop you out of it. Maybe it's music, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's, I have no idea what floats your boat, but you got to come up with that list. Okay.
Hi, Carolina.
Hello, everyone, and nice to see you. Thank you for tuning in here and doing this for us. I have changed my question to a broader one, if I may. I wanted to ask, so is that true that sometimes that you think that you have negative beliefs about money, and sometimes when you are aware of some of them, and then you feel still stuck? So is that true that the beliefs about money could be totally not about money that hinder you from getting the money? If I'm putting myself clearly here.
So Carolina, let me try phrasing your question the way you wrote it down.
Yes, please.
That would make it easier to understand. The question was, how do we become aware of subconscious beliefs that we might be carrying that are under our consciousness, that are below the surface? How do we become aware?
Might not be about money, yeah.
Right. And in her aspect, Karina's talking about money.
Well, I don't know, what's coming up to me right now is this idea that, abundance in whether it's money or relationships all has if you're not feeling like you're seeing it, right, or you're not experiencing it, because I believe it's everyone's birthright and it's there for the taking for every human. I sense that the thread underneath it all would be around worthiness, would be around not feeling enough. Is that what you're feeling?
I was doing the mental work, like cleaning up the thoughts that I have about money, just exactly what you described together with Vishen. And origin was, I'm not worth, I'm not good enough. But that's not about money. And that's, I believe, sometimes that we think that, oh, it's all about money, but it can be the root cause than something totally not about money. So that's why, and I have never had actually problems with money, attracting money. And I had a lot of them, but I never created anything of value. So I stopped myself from manifesting more money just to get into less of the trouble, because the more money I had, the more trouble I created for myself. So, okay, I got the confirmation from you.
This was such an interesting conversation. I know so much about you. I have so much admiration for you. I wanted to draw on some of the magic that I've seen you create in the world and help in some way to understand what's going on in that incredible mind of yours. So thank you for sharing that. So much respect for you. Congratulations on the book. So proud of you for being able to give away $5 million to charity, for building 3 businesses. And I cannot wait for you to be sharing all of your gifts to the world.